Peries, it's very kind of you to allow me to talk to you today. But I also have the additional pleasure of seeing this wonderful house. And I know you moved in recently, but it looks so artistic.
Um, First, I must say I feel privileged to be interviewed by you, and it's been a year I've been here, and I came under circumstances which were against anybody settling into some place, but I think the whole preoccupation of getting the house into some kind of visual elegance or whatever you may call it, because I had the paintings and most of the artifacts. So that took a time of me and my attention. So I think I naturally grew into the same environment comfortably. And I'm quite happy. I feel I'm in the Kathmandu, and you come through and you get this huge mango tree and you're again in the village. So there are sort of visual uh, extremities on the two sides. And I'm adjusted. Now, of course, we have our president, I think, is about 2 roads next.
Yes, I gather he's been quite near here.
Yes.
But for you, it must have obviously been difficult when your husband died after, was it 50 years ago?
We were there for, I think, 52 years, and I have been around from the age of about 10, from Sakavidyalaya to my family having the house down Gower Street, and so coming from that kind of, but I adjust because we are in the film business. We have to
Right.
sleep on rocks and maybe unusual places. So I think the mind doesn't take that long to readjust to your environment.
Right. When you married Lester, were you also in the film world already?
Yes, actually I had decided to study filmmaking long before, because I don't know whether you wouldn't have met my brother. He was on a yacht when I was just 20. So I went and joined him, and I was on a yacht for almost a year in the
Wonderful.
south of France. And that was an age when, I was a young Misakian and all that.
When was the year, if I might ask?
56.
Right.
And I lived on a small yacht with another Frenchman and his wife. And then I decided I want to do documentary films, really. So my brother sent me to a school in Switzerland, and I was going to study filmmaking there. And then I got bored with Lausanne. Switzerland is a bit of a sleepy town, so I came to Paris. And actually I met Lester for the first time in Paris.
When
Yeah,
that was
that was, he had come with Ray Carver for the Cannes Festival. And he's the one who advised me, and he said, why are you spending more time studying French to go to a French school? Why don't you go to London? Then I went to London and I studied filmmaking. And then again, I think my brother again had come back to make another yacht. And he said, why don't they are making a huge film that was Sundays at the time. And whether I wouldn't like to come back. So I think 3 or 4 years abroad, my instinct was, what am I doing here? So I came back and started working, and then of course the history of our relationship started. And otherwise I hadn't even known of Lester Peries, I hadn't known of Ray Carver, I hadn't even known of a single film industry as such. Because it was the first 10 years, few Indian Tanasulang and copies of Indian films were here, and at that time we as young girls wouldn't have gone. We might have still gone for the American musicals and that kind of film. And of course we got the better kind of films at that time, even in the British, you know.
This would have been early 60s,
Yes.
wasn't it? Sandesh, yes.
Sandesh was.
So you all actually got together as it were on the set of Sandesh?
Yes, we were.
Wonderful.
Because we were working. I was the only woman, I think, in that whole lot of Bambalawat I think boys were playing Portuguese soldiers,
Right.
and Arthur Van Langen played the captain,
Yes.
a superb actor.
No, I remember, the reason this brings back so many memories is this was the first thing in the film I saw.
Uh-huh.
And I still remember it. Arthur Van Langenberg, didn't he drown Irangani Sevasinghe?
He ordered the drowning, and Nairangani always says she was pushed into this water, and they were shooting, and when she said she nearly died because she didn't realize she'd get winded when she falls, when you just drop in, and she had gone down and she had this rock she was holding on to, and she wouldn't come up. So when she came up, I said, but Irangani, you didn't send bubbles. So they almost nearly chucked her in twice. But I think the vice council and they didn't push her.
Right.
So I have known Irangani since the days I started the film industry, because she had a sweet, lovely, fetching role in Sandesh as a mischievous sort of spy.
Yeah.
And so we've had we have been good friends.
No, it's wonderful for me to just recall this. And Arthur Van Langenberg again, whom I remember, because I was privileged to meet him a couple of years later. He lived next door to a friend. And he was such a kindly man.
Very kind, but at that time he was secretary to I think the Port Commission or something like that.
Really?
He was a very high civil servant at the
I
time.
didn't know that.
Yeah. He, then there was another Reg Van Kuylenberg. I don't know whether he married somebody. He brought out a book on Sri Lanka
Reg
in
Van
America.
Kuylenberg,
Photographer. He was a good photographer.
Right.
But he disappeared to the, I think, Western, maybe America.
Arthur lived on here and
Arthur
died
lived
here.
on his life.
Yes.
He was here. He was with his sister or
Yes,
family.
yes, down in, I think, Sumitra Peries.
Somewhere near the church in.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I remember seeing him there. It was a privilege to visit him. But, it's marvelous because I was a little boy then. But those two films made such an impression on me.
Yeah.
And, I have to admit, I'd gone as a little boy to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I came back with hardly any Sinhala. I had to relearn it.
You went that early, man.
I was 4 to 6, so you lose your language. And then these two films just made me realize one was Sandesha, which was so dramatic and powerful, and of course Kankarani,
All right.
just so marvelous.
Yes, I was happy. Last month I went to Goa for the Indian Film Festival. They celebrated 50 years of Gamparya winning the Golden Peacock. So they opened, it was called the 50-year tribute
Right.
to the award winners, and we were the first to win the Golden Peacock at that time. So they wanted me to come and present it. And it was also good and Goa is taking place.
Yes.
It's
Full of Arthur Van Langenberg.
And the Portuguese atmosphere is still there in certain areas. And so I was happy to relive that moment again.
Yes.
Though of course, it's Lester's moment. But the Golden Peacock, as I said, had so much history, because the first one got lost. Anton had, it was a golden, I mean, must have had 30, 40 sovereigns.
Yeah. Anton Wickremesinghe has this too.
Yeah, he was the chairman of our company. So when I came, I became a director of Anton Wickremesinghe Limited, of the company, Sri Lanka, and Anton was the chairman. So as chairman, he kept the peacock.
Yeah.
But when he passed away, nobody knows what has happened to the peacock.
That was a name I'd forgotten, but he was still alive when I came back from university.
He must have known you, I
Yes,
think.
we were.
Yeah,
He knew the family.
Family were.
He died in the 80s, isn't it? Or-
Yeah.
Yes. And I remember seeing him, and he was such a gentle man who didn't realize that he'd been this great entrepreneur, if that's the right
And
word.
also he had a most beautiful collection of best collection. Unfortunately, I think the whole thing was bought over by Maharajas. I think.
Really, and
Yeah.
it's all gone. And there's no
I think
memory
they,
really.
they have a private collection, whether it's open to the public or not. Some of the best of Keith, some of the best of Ivans were there.
Right.
But so now he's away from public eye, you know.
That's a pity. I hope they at
Yeah.
some point give it back even on loan.
Yeah,
But
yes.
of course, again, will we look
But,
after it? Yeah.
Chandrika's time, she was very keen. She bought some
Yeah.
through Senaka, you know, Senaka, that Bandaranaike. He helped for the presidential collection.
Right.
But I don't know whether it must be still in the president's house, I think.
Yes, again, there's been no tradition of
Yes.
recreating art. I remember that time when, you must remember in the 80s when the museum was rotting. I'm told it's much better now.
Yeah.
They've got under control.
Because we were leaking, and at the moment I think they are renovating the place.
They're trying to do a
Trying
better
to
job,
do.
but you know,
And people also must have that sense of like going to a shrine
Yes.
to see a painting.
Yeah.
You know, you must have seen in Europe or especially France, which
Yeah.
I treasure, is that, you know, you go, it's lit in a particular way, you'll sit and watch, and it's a meditative
yes.
thing.
And I realized this because, of course, I went to all those places when I was a boy, and then I went back. What they've done with the museums is fantastic. But I'd like to come back to film. But if I may, can I just move for a moment to France? Because, of course, in between your artistic career,
Yeah.
you're also a great diplomat. You were
Yes.
our ambassador in France.
Yes, I think Chandrika, for some reason, I think it was 100 years of cinema, because this was, I think I went in 1997. And she felt Leicester should go because she said my mother sent Dr. Sarachandra theatre and the cultural pinnacle of the world. So whether but Leicester was always reticent. He said, no, it's better that somebody like Sumitra goes. She has some, I don't say I speak French, top of the rung, but I could manage my French. And a woman, and with, anyway, it was easy passage for me in that sense of the word. And obviously, I might have functioned okay because they gave me the Legion of Honor.
Yes, no, I think they would have been. But you know, the French appreciated the cultural people we sent.
Yes.
Did you stay in the house in Newey? Or?
No. By the time I went, they had shifted places. So we got a place very near the Cinematheque for that.
All right, so you could indulge yourself.
And just spare time we could get to the balcony and see it and walk down and see a film at the Cinematheque. And it was in between because you are accredited to UNESCO too, no? When you're ambassador, because we had to wear both hats.
Yeah.
So this was in between the two. We were at that time, even the embassy was at Quai d'Orsay. It's very near the Elysee Palace at the time.
Yeah.
But now they've shifted, I think, to Rue Perronnet or something.
Yes, I remember seeing Sarat Chandra in Paris. The house in Newey,
Yeah.
where I stayed before.
I remember going there when I went on a scholarship after I married also for 1.5 years to France. And I was, then it was Tissa Vijayara.
Yes, I stayed with him for a night. He was having the ladies there as usual, so you know. But,
He was a
charming man, yes.
Charming, yes, he was. And he was quite I think he must have made some kind of dent in that. But France, I'm glad I went to France.
And did Lester spend much time with you, or was he also working there
Lester
at the
was,
time?
no, he used to, I think he came and did one or two finishing things. But otherwise, he spent, and we had friends coming over,
Right.
and sometimes he used to get tired. He said, I've been dragged from one gallery to another.
But if I might return to film, Ramutadua was also Lester's, was it?
No, it was Mike Wilson who
Of course,
come down
yes, because
with
that,
Arthur Clarke. That happened to be the first colour film. We never had the money for colour.
right.
And I think Lester's first colour film was from the leftovers of Ramutadua film.
Really? Right.
He did Madodu at
Of
the time.
course, yes, yes. Which of course had the same sort of
Yeah.
rural background. You know,
Yeah.
I was very interested when you talked about the contrast between this
Yeah.
lovely house with its garden
Yeah.
and of course the urban sprawl outside.
Mm.
But in a sense, I should also talk about your films.
Yeah.
And what would you consider your best and also your most memorable? Because they're not always the same. You think Anu Lamai?
I think Gahanul Lamai is the most memorable because naturally I would have been obsessed with the film, and I practically did everything. I want to do the script, I want to do the editing, I want to do everything in the film, and searching up the girl and a lot of emotional involvement with the film.
What year was it, if I might ask?
That would have been 1978 or something, 6 I think. We released in 8. But my favorite film still is Simon Navagattagama's Sagara Jale Madi and Upasanda. That's a collection of short stories of Simon's. And Viswanna Malavarachi, and it's set in the Vanni.
Right.
And I had a lovely little boy, central character. And that film took a lot of energy, time, and all that out of me. I think it's, for me, the most satisfying film, you know. We always have like sections of certain things that you do, and that performance or that has other memories, but all in all I would have thought Sagarajale was the best, or I don't know about the best, but maybe. The most popular, of course, was Gangadhara. Still I'm remembered
Right.
with the song was popular, Vijay Kumar Thinga singing that. The little kids and the color, and we had though it was the first sort of color film on release, it had a very we disciplined the color. I hardly used. I remember the producer, Sumitra Peries, Abhi mein color pintura neda hadani. Why am I using so many white uniforms and so many toned down colors, you know? So the visual impact of it was somehow seep through. Then you would expect the garish and the lot of color and lot of tinsel, which it didn't have.
What year was that?
That would have been just after, but 1980?
Early 80s, yeah.
Early 80s.
You know, something that really does interest me, and maybe I'm being just very simplistic, but you know, you mentioned a couple of women. And I have had this sense, which I'm sure you will disagree with. You know, women actors are so marvelously subtle. And I can't say the same for the men. They're gung-ho. You know, I'm thinking of Gamni Fonseca, Vijay Kumar Tunga. I mean, good actors. I love their performances. I don't think even them, but I think it's roles.
I think it's the roles, because the roles, of course, they're more, if it's introspective, naturally you're closer to the face, and each little twinkle in the eye should show, and the feminine faces may be more visually elegant. I don't know, but men might have beards and might be having other diversions.
Right.
You know, the delicacies of the little nuances of playing might get lost. But I think, especially if you recall, some of the best performances for me was, of course, Irangali. She's 92 or something, but still, she's a superb actress. And I think even today, the other day somebody went and she was going to act in some teledrama or a film, and she was going through her script and memorizing because now I think she has to work a little harder.
Yeah.
But she's very conscientious. And recently she had fallen into a pool of water because they had got her to cross in the night. And she was, she had a narrow share, but she was injured up to a point.
Did she get breathless like in?
No, not like in Sundays where she was chucked into the waters.
Right.
But Rangani, I must say, it's not only Rangani, even little girls like Maya. I remember one sequence, we had made all the arrangements, and then she fell down from another place and said, "Why did you do that?" She said, "But I had to die." So those are innocent little anecdotes, but that is the reality. And of course, somebody like Punya had the marvelous range, and I think the script and the atmosphere and Mahapino Valava and Billy Blake's photography and all that. And that time we didn't have fancy lights or anything. We just had bounce lights from the veranda, and I think we had just one lamp.
But it's so tranquil.
It's still, when I went to Goa this time for the 50th anniversary of this Golden Peacock meeting, I managed to get the Americans have restored the film. So I got a very good DCP copy from UCLA.
Is it only Gamperia that they have restored?
No, they restored Rekha. I think the last government, one of the things they did was they paid and restored. Restoration is a very expensive process, almost as costly as making a film. They restored Rekha, and they have a DCP copy here. Then the Martin Scorsese has a special fund to restore world classics or whatever you may call them. And Nidhane was chosen, and they restored it, and I think the best place for restoration is supposed to be in Bologna, in Italy. And they did it, and I went because then Gamperlia was restored by the Americans, and they had a screening at the Cannes Festival of Classics. And Nidhane was restored in Bologna, and they had a screening of it at the Venice Festival. So I couldn't go for the Gamperlia one, but I went for the Nidhane. That was only about 3 or 4 years ago. And they also had done a marvelous job. And so at least those for posterity, when we are no more, and people might be able to recollect that there was a film like this. But film is very perishable, as you know.
That's the sad thing, and you have to be very careful.
Very careful about preservation.
What about the other two in the Martin Wickremesson trilogy? They were later, of course.
Much later, because Gamperlia was in 65 or 63 we shot. And I think Yugantha was much later, must have been in the 80s. And Kali Yuga would have been in the early 80s. Then Punya came 30 years later to play herself 30 years.
In Kali Yuga?
Kali Yuga, yeah. Punya and Henry both. As they said, maybe the first time in the history that you get the same players without makeup playing themselves old and playing a leading role, playing 30 years sort of later, and that was something very special.
And I should have mentioned that in my rather sweeping generalization about male actors, Henry Drasena was an exception.
Henry was an
such
exception, yes.
charm and subtlety.
Subtlety, he had, and he wasn't that subtlety wasn't appreciated. Because you expect a more macho kind of, you always expect brawn and macho, and even the twitch of a thing has to be exaggerated. And so that it's really a tribute to the male that a person like Henry came, acted, and continued to act in the same style until he was appreciated.
No, I'm so glad because he was a wonderful person.
He was.
Of course, my great friend was Richard de Souza, who played a major role in Uganda.
Yes.
I have to say, much as I loved Richard personally and also as an actor, on celluloid he was not as alive to me.
Who?
Richard de Souza. I don't know whether you felt that. I loved him on stage.
Yes, I think he is more, he plays outwards to an audience. And that interior, more controlled, more contemplative kind of playing.
Yeah.
I think he tried.
Yes.
He tried with his whole body, and he's such a good actor.
Yeah.
And he has such a lovely face.
Lovely face, lovely voice.
Lovely voice, apart from being a lovely man. Anyway, even at a stage like this, just even mention him, I feel privileged. And but I think in a way, his forte was more theatre. Airangani, on the other hand, I think her associates, because they play with the whole body, they have been trained to use their body, but our cinema actors sometimes can get away with, mostly the facial expressions, or I think not, it depends also on the roles. If it's a high-powered drama, like even in the West, whatever they can say gently, that thing is not there in a male, so they believe that it's not there.
So
they have to have that macho thing, and so it's. But sometimes I must say, in moments, Gamini is playing. Sometimes he used to get it in Gamperlia. He tried hard, and when Gamini was cast, even Martin Wickramasinghe said, "Yeah, boxer can make the money. How will he fit into my Jinadas?"
Yeah.
But at the end of the film, I think he told Lester, "You did wise."
Yes, he caught that
He
spirit
caught
and
the spirit and the way he moved, and he slowed down everything, and he tried to play down. So that is a gift of a
He was
player.
also very disciplined, like you said. I remember Richard got him to do an Othello for us in a tiny little Shakespeare thing we did, and he worked so hard at it.
Yeah. Now he is also not a person who can project a lot from the stage, no? No. He is more interior, more camera, between the secret between the camera and the player.
Yeah.
But with the other kind of player who can play out and throughout, it's just, you may use Stanislavski or whatever name you use, finally it is you who play. And the director can guide, can try to extract, can try to coax. You find the way that is best for you to get your performance.
It's what we call a mechanism between
Mechanism. It's like using clay, and that's why kids are beautiful. Now, of course, kids are getting too smart.
Yeah.
They are taking over the singular cinema, I think. And because they are much more natural, they don't think too much.
People empathize.
Yes.
Just like to move a little bit something like the artistic milieu, because I think back to the first time I met you both. It was at Bill McAlpine's Do you remember him?
Really, Bill was so sweet.
Yes, and to me, I'd just come back from university, and Bill would have these evenings in his garden.
Yes.
And I feel so privileged, there was Bill and Helen, and West End Sumitra Peries,
Yes.
and
We
a couple
were
of
quite
others.
she was Helen, wasn't
Helen,
she? Yes.
Helen.
She
Frail,
was
but-
being a yes.
But a dancer.
She was a dancer, but she had an accident or
Yes, so she
something?
couldn't dance, and she was, Bill had to look after her. But
Bill passed away before.
no. Helen passed away just a bit earlier. She was a bit older.
Yeah.
And Bill passed away in the 90s. But
But did he go back?
No, he died here. I
He died
remember
here?
that, yes, in that house in Siripa Road.
Really? That was Ranjit Vijayavardhan?
Ranjit Vijayavardhan's house, that enclave. And that was, of course, quite near Dickman's Road.
Yeah, that was near.
Yeah. So
And Sarath Amundagam believe it on one
yes,
side. Yes.
yes. No, but there was an artistic milieu of people.
He managed to get round and
Yes.
collect and but today it's much less whether it is you might have different political views, but still there was a binding thing with
Yes.
the arts.
Yeah. And that
Whether
seems-
Charya Besekara or Reggie Sirivardhan,
Yes.
they were
No, they also had a range, didn't they? They commented on other
Yes.
things, arts, politics, film.
and if
A.J. Gunawardena.
AJ Guno, even a person like L.O.D. Silberg, I don't know whether you can remember, he not
I've read some of his stuff, I didn't
No,
know
he
him,
was-
but
But he was away, I think, good part of
Right.
his career, at the end of his career. But today it's less made, even among the Sinhala speaking intellectual community, I don't think that depth is there.
well, part of the problem, the poor chaps, is that, they haven't got easy access to the international scene because of the failure of language.
Yeah.
And, there are obviously great
Oh.
exceptions.
But even a person like Ajit Samaraj,
The name had come to my
Well,
mind, I was going to, he died so young. But he had a range of
He had a
knowledge and judgment.
Yes, he was an exceptional.
Yeah.
He used to, of course, destroy himself by drinking.
Yes.
He used to come home and any day I am not at home or I had gone out somewhere, I think he used to settle down and sleep at home and come
Yeah.
and drink.
No, he was a wonderful guy.
Wonderful.
I remember when, soon as I came back, I did an arts program.
Yeah.
I was so impressed by his range, how he could actually respond critically, but sympathetically, to everything. Any genre, cinema, theatre, literature, and English and Sinhala. And I don't think we have anyone like that now.
No, no.
Not so much.
Yeah, because lots of areas to opportunities to write. Now somebody yesterday, Dave, I don't know who this girl is, I can't even remember her. She rang me up and wanted, I said, okay, you can do it on the telephone. So she spoke to me, a magazine called Cosmopolitan. I hadn't even
No, there are a lot of these so-called posh magazines, very expensive,
Yeah.
very colourful. I mean, they do try to at least present something of our heritage.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
Because yes, I didn't see how I would fit in there, but
But like I used to tell Ina De Silva,
Yeah.
Ina and Jeffrey were
Yeah.
another pair of artists of
Yeah,
your
yeah.
generation, which is so creative. And Ina would say, I might as well do it because at least some publicity
yeah.
for the cause.
Because, at least people are conscious. There's another shade to all.
To life, and somebody said we have to
Yesterday-
educate our masters.
Yesterday, somebody brought me a book which I also wrote about blues in the Golden Peacock or something. And whole lot of young people writing and beautifully brought out. I haven't read the contents of it. And by beautifully photographed. Coffee table book. It must be costly.
But there are people, but they may have to be thankful that at least they produce them and some people read them. I hope they read them and not.
I hope, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's called Memories of 50 years or Memories of 100 years, something like that.
It sounds interesting, and we have to be glad.
Yeah.
Rita, I must say, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for taking us down so many, I would say, creative memories. And it's been a great pleasure.
Great pleasure, and also, as I said earlier, I use the same word, there's anything better than that, is the privilege of having, I've always admired your writing and you as a person. So to be here, to be interviewed by you, I think it's a special, very special day for me, and a special, I hope it will go through in the same spirit to our
Whoever watches it must
whoever watches
learn, I
it
hope.
must learn, and they might enrich a little bit even of their lives, and other people, there are people who live different lives also.
Yeah.
Let's hope.
Let's hope so, and
Yeah.
my thanks also
Yes.
to Lester.